word.
Rebuttal.
I ain't trying to say anything about this lady. Like I said, in the day, this is her job. And
May I proceed?
Come on, man.
The defense is right. The state has the last word right now. Because it simply boils down to the fact that this is a story that they have concocted to distract us from what actually happened.
Overruled.
Like I was saying, this is just a story that the defense has concocted to distract us from the facts and the evidence at hand. Because when the facts are on your side, you argue the facts. When the law is on your side, you argue the law.
Overruled. This is argument.
When the law is on your side, you argue the law. But hey, when neither are on your side, you blame the police. Members of the jury, I want to direct your attention
I couldn't be in court,
to
man.
page
I couldn't. I had too many
3
outbursts.
in the jury instructions. Starting at the second paragraph. The judge has just instructed us that a reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt, a speculative, imaginary, or a forced doubt. That line is important to remember. Because what the defense is asking you to believe in this trial is that all of these officers who have never met the defendant before a day in their life decided to get together and connive a plan to frame him in this crime. Is that reasonable? No, it's not. It's just simply not reasonable. It's a theory that's been pulled out of thin air to distract us, and I can't emphasize that enough.
Grounds.
Asking jury to determine who was lying as a test for deciding fakes.
Overruled.
Now, members of the jury, I want to direct your attention to another page in the jury instructions, page number 5. Under the rules for deliberation, under bullet point number 3, the judge just explained to us that this case must not be decided for or against anyone because you feel sorry for anyone or you're angry at anyone. When we take a look at the arguments that have been raised by the defense, that's exactly what they're asking us to do. They're asking us to be angry at these officers for making a human mistake. Things that they admitted to us and admitted to telling us here today, they're honest about those mistakes. They're asking us to make a ruling, a decision based on feeling rather than facts and evidence. So let's just briefly talk about what the evidence is in this case and what it is not. The defense, throughout the entirety of this trial, in fact, majority of their closing argument focused on this sealed liquor bottle that was found in the defendant's vehicle. I didn't want to mention that during my initial closing argument because, as I briefly stated, it's not evidence during this trial. It's just not. See, members of the jury, the defense is saying the words that law enforcement manufactured evidence. Does opening a bottle of vodka sound like manufacturing evidence?
You saw the body cam footage. They literally said they had a come on, bro. We gotta start, man. I could not be a court, bro. I would literally lash so bad because they literally said this. We got this bottle. Like, that's what they kept mentioning. But yeah, okay. They didn't use it for evidence or nothing. But I bet if the bottle wasn't there, what they would have did. What they would have did, bro. I want to know.
Does it sound like this law enforcement officer went to the store and bought a bottle of alcohol just to put it in his vehicle?
Like, we obviously know she ain't go to the damn liquor store to go buy a bottle and put it in there. It's the simple fact that she saw that it was open, know that it was open, squeezed it, and forced it open. That's what they're trying to say. I couldn't be in court, man. I get ignorant.
No. You've seen the video in this case. You've seen the body-worn camera footage that shows us that when they searched the vehicle, it was already in the defendant's car. Officer Oliver never once went to Officer Muth or Sergeant Smith and said, "Hey, I found an open bottle of liquor." She didn't. And what that boils down to, it was Officer...
It literally said in the body cam footage, yeah, it was a bottle of liquor, and they said it was open, and you said yes. But, you know, it's her job to persuade a jury, like I said.
Miscommunication. They made a mistake. They both told us there was a mistake. And members of the jury, we're human. Every one of us is human, including these two officers. Not saying that it was okay to make that mistake, but they made a mistake. And what's important is that they were honest and they owned up to it. And even if we're going to talk about this body,
you know, even though that they made a mistake and they wrongfully arrested, they own up to it, and it's okay because the simple fact is that he left a bar. That's just, come on, man.
Bottle of liquor, it's important to remember that he was already placed under arrest for driving under the influence before they found this bottle. Law enforcement had already determined that he was impaired by alcohol before he was even told about this bottle. In fact, we saw this body-worn camera footage. The defense keeps talking about how the defendant was just angry for being falsely accused of something, but never once in that video footage did we see him being told about this liquor bottle. He keeps talking about marijuana, but that's not the charge in today's case. We haven't charged him.
That's what they used to search the car, though, and it wasn't no smell of no Come on, man.
With possession of marijuana. We haven't charged him with DUI by consuming something such as marijuana. That's not something that's relevant in your deliberations in today's trial. Ms. Goodfellow, for the defense, also said that the law enforcement officers lied about why they placed the defendant under arrest. She says that they only told him that he was placed under arrest for driving with a suspended license. But you heard the testimony of Officer Muth. You've heard her own words. When Ms. Goodfellow got up here and asked sobriety exercise, Muth stated. So not only do we have field sobriety exercise refusals that would have shown us here in today's trial whether or not his normal faculties were truly impaired, like the defense really doesn't want us to believe.
Objection, Your Honor. May we sidebar?
Yes.
That also leads us to question why the defendant didn't take the breath test. I mentioned this during my original closing arguments.
Objection, burden shifting.
Overruled.
It's called consciousness of guilt. Like I said, and I'll briefly touch on it because I don't want to take up too much of your time. The defendant refused that breath test despite knowing that his driving privileges would be suspended for an entire year because he knew that he was under the influence. He knew that he had been drinking alcohol that night. We know that he knew he was drinking alcohol because, like I said earlier, he admitted to being at the bar. He had a wristband on consistent with being at the bar. He also told officers that he was drinking alcohol. And when we look inside the evidence, if we're going to completely disregard this liquor bottle, it does not take away from the fact that there was still a cup in the center console that had a mixed drink in it. Both officers told us that they've been trained, they have experience, even just as everyday.
My thing is, if that was the case, why did they not pour that cup out, but they poured the bottle out? I just want to know, why didn't they pour it out then? Because they left it in there.
Persons to know what alcohol smells like. We saw the body-worn camera footage. Both officers took turns smelling it, and their immediate reaction is, that smells like alcohol. So he's also got alcohol in his vehicle. The defense also commented on about how the defendant had the right to be angry. But members of the jury, this is something we talked about briefly in jury selection. How outpouring of emotions and anger and outbursts can also be a sign of impairment. He may have been angry that he was placed under arrest, but that's because he knew he was in the wrong. He knew that he was driving under the influence. He knew that he shouldn't have gotten into his vehicle and drove after spending the entire night up until 2 a.m. drinking alcohol.
Objection, back on evidence.
Sustained.
Members of the jury, the facts are simple. You've seen it, and I encourage you to look at the videos and physical pieces of evidence that we presented throughout this trial when you enter the deliberation room. They're simple. And the state has met its burden. We've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was driving under the influence that night, to the extent that his normal faculties were impaired. Now that you've seen the truth, and when you go into the deliberation room, the truth and the evidence demands that you find this defendant guilty. Thank you.
Moments you'll be taken to the jury room by the bailiff. The first thing you should do is choose a foreperson who will preside over your deliberations.
And then basically after they had that, it took them a minute. I think it like, let's see how long. So 14 minutes all up to like 30. Basically almost like an hour. Yeah, because it was like 50 some minutes, and then this what they read it.
All right, jury entering the courtroom.
Private affair as long as they wish it.
Number one, is this your verdict?
Mr. Riley, please stand.
In the matter of the state of Florida versus Calvin Riley, case number 2023 CT 854, we, the jury, finds as follows as to count one of the information, driving under the influence. The defendant, Calvin Riley, is guilty. So say we all this 8th day of April 2024.
You may be seated. Does either side wish to have the jury polled? State?
No, Your Honor.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Madam Clerk, can you please poll the jurors?
Juror number one, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number two, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number three, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number four, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number five, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number six, is this your verdict? Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you on some very special privileges.
Yes, Your Honor.
Over my judgment.
And at the, they gave him like 10 days in
Not the
jail.
all. For the dish.
I believe it was like 10
And-
days.
What the other standard, so DUI level 1, the 50 hours of community.
The DUI statute.
So that's the DUI. Are there any prior DUIs?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so DUI level 1, the 50 hours of community service, 10-day vehicle impound, the 6-month DL suspension. I don't have a standard plea form in front of me. Do you remember what the other standard DUI firsts are?
Yes, Your Honor, 50 hours.
Very upset and angry. I accept the responsibility for getting upset and let my emotions get over my judgment of just being a person and staying calm. Like I stated before, I was only going through this emotional stuff because the past I've been through with law enforcement and what I started going through that night with these officers, it was just a repeat of what I experienced growing up here. And it made me very upset and angry. And if anyone was hurt in that moment, I apologize, but at the same time I was hurt too. And I'm still dealing with it. And that police that the state is talking about, I was unaware of that until like they came on board. I had a new lawyer. All this stuff was brought to my attention sweat last month and things started changing. So I don't have time to process all this stuff neither. I don't know what else to say.
Okay. Thank you. You didn't have to say anything, but I appreciate you speaking. All right, I'm going to adjudicate you guilty as I did before, sentence you to 6 months probation. As a condition of that probation, you'll do 10 days in the Leon County Jail. You'll also have to attend and complete DUI level 1 school and any counseling as recommended. 50 hours of community service. Your vehicle, if you own one, will be impounded for a period of 10 days. If you no longer own a vehicle, you just need to get a certification from the DHSMV saying that you no longer own the vehicle, and that can be waived. Your driver's license will be suspended for a period of 6 months. You'll need to attend and complete a victim awareness program. You will have alcohol conditions with random breath test once per month. And your probation can terminate early at the halfway point if you have completed all of your conditions. And Madam Clerk, if you could please announce the standard fines and court costs, and would the defense like them to be itemized?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, if you could please break them down for us.
Man, I really do hope this dude like tries to fight this though, because I do see a lot of backlash on it. It's, you know, the saying the justice system failed us and everything, which it always does, man. And especially when, you know, they try to point out, you know, he was leaving the bar and all this, and trying to just basically like ignore the fact of what the officers were doing and how their conduct was, because at the end of the day they were wrong, especially for opening a liquor bottle and pouring it out and trying to use that. Like, bro, like we gotta start being real. Like, come on, man. If that liquor bottle wasn't there, they would have not said that, because at first it was marijuana to search the car. But y'all let me know what y'all think, man. Like I said, man, I hope the best for Calvin Riley and that he really does fight this, because, man, this is wrong at the end of the day. But if y'all have different opinions about this, please share in the comment section. Please let me know, and y'all have a wonderful day.